This week on the West Asia Post. Syria's Bashar al-Assad makes a return. From being an international pariah to reclaiming his place in the Arab world as countries normalize ties with Syria. We take a look at the Syrian president's comeback. Also on the show this week, Iraqi protesters demand for an election recount. And a look at how Lebanon remains on the edge. Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, every Friday 8:30 p.m. IST, only on WION. World is one.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Joe Biden, now the 46th president of the United States, has a full plate in front of him.
Afghanistan has been the heart of American military power.
In a clear warning to China, India's military has now taken control of the country for 1 year.
It says that it's likely to miss by around.
What was happening inside the virology lab in Wuhan.
One ship was able to freeze global trade.
We want love, we want peace, we want equality!
There are
a traditional recipe, and it's really very delicious.
Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Nick Harper, and in this bulletin we'll get you a roundup on the stories developing around the world. First up, the headlines. China urges Washington to tread carefully on Taiwan after President Joe Biden says the US will defend the self-ruled island from attacks by Beijing. Defence ministers gather for a second day at the NATO roundtable in Brussels. The EU is debating whether to set up a small force capable of rapid deployment after the chaotic US exit from Afghanistan. The Taliban launches an all-out operation at ISIS-K hideouts across Afghanistan. The crackdown comes after 2 consecutive attacks targeting Friday prayers in Kabul. In the latest in a string of violence in the world's largest refugee settlement, at least 6 people are killed after an armed gang targets a religious school in a Rohingya camp in Bangladesh's Cox's Bazar. A shooting scene goes wrong on the set of an Alec Baldwin film. A cinematographer dead and director wounded after Alec Baldwin fires a prop gun. No charges have been filed over the incident, which is being investigated. Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for kids is found to be nearly 91% effective, preventing symptomatic infections in 5 to 11-year-olds. Vaccinations to that age group could begin in early November in the US. First today, the United States has sent out a strong message to China. Xi Jinping, if he decides to attack Taiwan, President Joe Biden says the US will come to the island's defence. The US president spoke during a CNN town hall event. He was asked if he could vow to protect Taiwan, to which he promptly responded, yes. Then he added that there is no need to worry. He was then asked a second time if the US would come to Taiwan's defence in the event of an attack by China, to which Joe Biden again replied yes. Biden added that he has a commitment to do so. While these revelations are not clear as day and they go against long-held US foreign policy, it is evident that Washington and Taipei have been strengthening their relationship. But this relationship was only to provide aid. The US is legally bound to help Taiwan protect itself from China. But the latest comments by Biden hint at a US military intervention. Shortly after this interview, a White House representative clarified that there is no change in US policy towards Taiwan. Biden's comments have drawn waves of anger from Beijing. China has called on the US to act with caution, warning that it could seriously damage relations. The Chinese foreign minister even threatened that one wrong move could cost Taiwan its peace and stability.
我们敦促美方切实恪守一个中国原则和中美3个联合公报的规定，在台湾问题上谨言慎行，不向台独分裂势力发出任何错误信号，以免严重损害中美关系和台海和平稳定。
Military tensions between Taiwan and China are at their worst in more than 40 years, from sending warplanes to Taiwan's air defence identification zone to threatening a full-blown attack. Beijing has been ramping up manoeuvres in the region that it claims as theirs. Taiwan, on the other hand, says that it's an independent country and will defend its freedom and its democracy. Meanwhile, Beijing is feeling the heat once again on the Uyghur Muslims. 43 nations came together to slam the communist regime's handling of the Uyghurs in the Xinjiang region. China has been urged to ensure full respect for the rule of law. The United States, European countries and Asian states signed a joint statement which said, and I quote, "We call on China to allow immediate, meaningful and unfettered access to Xinjiang for independent observers. We are particularly concerned about the situation in the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region," unquote. The declaration highlighted torture, forced sterilisation, sexual and gender-based violence, and forced separation of children. China, however, has once again dismissed all allegations. China's ambassador to the United Nations, Shang Jung, denounced the declaration.
What I should point out again is that this visit should be a friendly one, should not be a so-called investigation with presumed guilt. That's not acceptable to China. Actually, at this moment, Bannon, the barriers are not on the Chinese side. It's the politicized practice. It's the preset conditions of a number of Western countries which have made this visit not impossible to happen.
In 2019 and 2020, a similar declaration was made public by Britain and Germany. It gained the support of 39 countries last year. This year, Turkey, Eswatini, Portugal and the Czech Republic joined the international criticism against China. The Uyghurs are a Muslim ethnic minority mostly based in China's Xinjiang province. They make up around 45% of the population there. According to multiple reports, Beijing is accused of holding around 1 million Uyghurs in detention camps. It's alleged that the camps have inmates where they're forced to swear loyalty to China's President Xi Jinping. Beijing, however, has repeatedly refuted these claims. Melbourne is Australia's second largest city, and for the first time in over 260 days, the residents of Melbourne were allowed to step out, with lockdown restrictions having been substantially lifted. So, how has life changed for the residents of Melbourne? Our next report brings you the details.
For a city that has lived under a lockdown for the last 9 months, this has been an unusual morning. For the first time in many months, restaurants, bars and cafes have reopened. Streets are again bustling with activity. And people who were cooped up in their homes headed into salons for an urgent haircut with an absolute sense of relief.
This is what we do. We're people. We just like to be doing hair, mixing, talking, socialising. It's really important for us.
With 70% of the eligible people vaccinated, the residents of Melbourne were doing what till yesterday was unthinkable. They were out swimming, dining and sitting at cafes in a very leisurely manner, enjoying all the things that life has to offer. For many, this was also the first time that they were seeing their family and friends.
How are you doing? Visiting family and friends is just fantastic. It's been such a long time since we've been able to do that.
Even Prime Minister Scott Morrison urged the people to enjoy their first whiff of freedom after the lockdown.
To all of those who are down there in Victoria today, enjoy the day. It's going to be tremendous being reunited again and doing all the things you've been looking forward to doing. You've worked so hard for that, as they have here in New South Wales and the ACT, and together the country will open safely and stay safely open.
Melbourne has now abandoned the COVID-0 policy that it pursued for much of the pandemic. Despite the increased freedoms for the fully vaccinated Melbourne residents, they still cannot leave the city, and retail shops must remain closed. But for the people of Melbourne, even this much freedom to move around has come as a breath of fresh air. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
In a shocking incident, Hollywood actor Alec Baldwin fired a prop gun that killed a cinematographer and wounded the director on a film set in New Mexico. Helena Hutchkins, the 42-year-old cinematographer, was transported to hospital via helicopter, where she was pronounced dead. Director Joel Souza underwent treatment for his injuries and has since been released from hospital. The incident happened on the set of the movie Rust in the southwest US state, where Baldwin is playing the lead role. The 63-year-old star is also a co-producer in the movie. Production has been halted for an undetermined amount of time. Meanwhile, detectives are investigating how and what type of projectile was discharged. According to a police statement, the investigation remains open and active, and no charges have been filed so far. Baldwin has been questioned by investigators and he's been released. Reports suggest he was unaware of the type of ammunition in the prop gun. It's not the first time, though, that an on-set death has been caused by a gun firing blanks. Back in 1984, actor John Eric Hexam died after shooting himself in the head with a prop gun blank, while pretending to play Russian roulette with a .44 Magnum on the set of the television series Cover Up. Then, in 1993, martial arts legend Bruce Lee's son Brandon Lee died after being hit by a .44 caliber slug while filming a death scene for the movie The Crow. The gun was supposed to have fired a blank, but an autopsy turned up that a bullet was lodged near his spine. Both incidents were determined to have been unfortunate accidents. Now, on a film set, live ammunition is strictly prohibited, and the use of prop guns is supposed to be strictly controlled, with a prop master or a licensed armourer responsible for handling all weapons, including loading the blanks. So, where was the prop master when the horrific incident took place, and who should be held responsible? We will, of course, be bringing you all the latest updates on this investigation. To Haiti now, where the leader of the suspected gang, suspected of kidnapping North American missionaries, has threatened to kill the hostages if his demands are not met. The leader of the 400 Mawozo gang is reportedly holding 17 members of a missionary group from the United States. Wilson Joseph was seen in a video saying that he will kill the hostages if he doesn't get what he's demanding. The speaker in the video is recognisable as a man known in Haiti by the alias Lamo Sanju. The video includes footage of what appears to be 5 dead men lying in coffins. The man described them as fallen soldiers, blaming their deaths on the police chief of Haiti, Leon Charles. The gang leader has also threatened Haiti's national police and Haitian Prime Minister Ariel Henry. The missionaries were not present in the video.
C'est jeudi mercredi. Journée qui pas jamais fin payer dette les deux. Mais c'est vrai c'est là. Et là fini filmer tout moi. Ariel Henry. Léon Charles. Et comment nom bataille de encore Joseph. Mais c'est pas le jeudi mercredi là. Joue pas jamais fin payer dette les deux. Moi-même là, moi, ce jour, on plein de qui est pas frapper. Le Sénat, ça fait me crier de l'eau. Habillé, monsieur. Environ 6 soldats tombés par Cacazon l'armée. Joseph fait me crier, Laurent Charles fait me crier. Monsieur, moi-même là, je crier de l'eau. Là, je crier de l'eau, moi, je fais non crier sang. On l'a boulé. Depuis samedi, c'est en bas, je ne vois américain ça yo. M'ta plutôt tirer yo. Et puis ouais, m'a vu nam qui ton gros âme dans tête chaque. Et puis samedi, am film si d'elle. Une balle.
Well, in reaction, the White House has said that the State Department is working with the Haitian police on the ground and will do everything it can to help resolve the kidnappings.
We have in the administration been relentlessly focused on this, including sending a team to Haiti from the State Department, working very closely with the FBI, which is the lead in these kinds of matters, in constant communication with the Haitian National Police, the church that the missionaries belong to, as well as the Haitian government. And we will do everything that we can to help resolve the situation.
Last week, 16 Americans and 1 Canadian were abducted, along with their Haitian driver. The group of hostages includes 5 children. The missionaries were on a trip organised by the Ohio-based Christian Aid Missionaries. The victims had gone to visit an orphanage in the heart of the area under the control of the gang. According to authorities, the kidnappers are demanding a $17 million ransom for the hostages' freedom. Meanwhile, against the backdrop of growing gang influence, Haitian Police Chief Leon Charles has presented his resignation. Prime Minister Ariel Henry announced the appointment of a new police chief, Franz Elbe. The 400 Mawozo began as a small-time local group of thieves and rose to become one of Haiti's most feared gangs. Now, the gang name roughly translates to 400 inexperienced men. According to security experts, it controls a swath of countryside east of the capital, Port-au-Prince. Haitian gangs have steadily expanded their territory in recent years and have grown more brazen since the July assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. A Haitian NGO has reported that at least 119 people were kidnapped by criminal gangs in Haiti during the first half of October. This marks a significant surge that has been highlighted by the abduction of these 17 North American citizens last weekend. Now, the tourism industry across the globe was pushed to get creative during the pandemic. With the subsequent movement restricted, we saw a boom in incentivised domestic tourism, staycations and creative activities. Hong Kong has taken that a step further. Sleepy Hong Kongers can now get on a Snooze bus tour to relax and unwind. At least that's what the organisers were hoping to achieve. Here's a report.
If you are someone who has a long commute to work, you would relate when we say that it isn't always a waste of your time. It can be a good time to catch up on podcasts, the book you haven't had the time to read, and even a quick nap after a long day of work. Well, Hong Kong is now offering tours specifically for that on the new Snooze bus.
As a new travel agent, we hope to bring joy to our customers during the pandemic. So we tried to think of some new creative tours. When we were brainstorming new tours, I saw a social media post from my friend saying that he was stressed out by his work. He couldn't sleep at night. But when he was traveling on the bus, he was able to sleep well. His post inspired us to create this tour that lets passengers just sleep on the bus.
Hong Kong is following a zero COVID-19 policy that restricts international travel. The Snooze bus is being touted as a way for residents to relax and have the experience of travelling. They say it is not the destination but the journey that matters. Clearly, the organisers took this expression too literally. During this 5-hour journey, those on board can take a nap for a sweet price of anywhere between $13 to $60. The reason as to why someone would need a bus tour for that eludes us. But to each their own.
I usually fall asleep when I'm on long-distance bus journeys. I checked before the tour that this bus route is 76 kilometers long. So this is a very good opportunity for me to get some sleep.
People in Hong Kong don't have enough time to sleep, so we tend to prioritize other things like leisure activities, our other personal obligation or our work schedule over sleep, which is actually in fact a more important basic physiological need for human beings. And that's why we have to kind of use other times to sleep, which is our daily commutes, especially when we're traveling on public transport. And also it reflects a phenomenon, that's what we call conditioning, because usually we associate our bed with sleep. However, for some people, they may tend to associate the public transport with their sleep. And that's why they found it easier to fall asleep on the bus.
The idea for this came from people's tendency to doze off on public transport, and clearly there are many who truly miss dozing off on public transport on their way to work and or home. Bureau Report WION, World is One.
Well, that's all we have time for on today's WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Nick Harper, and for more global news and updates, stay tuned to WION World is One.
This is right, Arab.
Trade Center that is the one where the impact.
The cause of India's freedom for many years.
I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr.
America is a constant work in progress.
This week on the West Asia Post. Syria's Bashar al-Assad makes a return. From being an international pariah to reclaiming his place in the Arab world as countries normalize ties with Syria. We take a look at the Syrian president's comeback. Also on the show this week, Iraqi protesters demand for an election recount. And a look at how Lebanon remains on the edge. Watch the West Asia Post with me, Redi Francis, every Friday 8:30 p.m. IST, only on WION. World is one.
WION, India's global voice. The channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
This week on the West Asia Post. Syria's Bashar